The group stage for IEM Melbourne, oh wait, sorry, I don't want my down under delegation for my Discord to crucify me. IEM Melbourne has just wrapped up. My sleep schedule is a mess. Let's talk about the 6 teams making it into the playoffs that are starting literally tonight and prep for the rest of the action going through the weekend. Keeping things short and sweet today, let's go ahead and get things started. Make sure you guys take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year, and it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, so thank you for doing it. And one last thing, I've been having some problems with demonetization lately. I'm not really sure why, but just a reminder, if you want to support me more than just liking the video, watching the content, consider becoming a channel member. For $5 a month, you can support me directly. You get your name at the end of the video every single time, as well as a custom role in our community Discord, also linked in the description. It helps out immensely, and thank you so much to our channel members. Lastly, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video is sponsored by Skin Club. They're one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by their provably fair system. You can open cases individually or wager your winnings against other users in case battles, either with players around the world or privately with bots if you want to avoid being smurfed outside of Premiere as well. But wait, there's more. Skin Club runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases, and if you don't like what you earned, you can always go for a cheeky little upgrade to get something you do. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description down below and get a 7% deposit bonus when you top off your account with credit card, crypto, or the 5,000 Peach 50 sand dunes in your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and only do so if you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that doesn't restrict gambling. Gambling can be an addiction, and you should never gamble for the purposes of making profit. Only wager what you are comfortable losing. If you or a loved one are suffering from gambling addiction in the US or Canada, you can reach out to 1-800-GAMBLER toll-free to get help. I want you to be safe and healthy always, so seek help if you need it. And thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of an inversion on my normal group stage recap formula. Normally we would talk about the teams who made it first, and then at the end of the video talk about the teams who missed it, but we're going to go ahead and flip that and talk about the teams who missed first, because I'm pissed off. Don't worry, the Brokey rant is incoming. Firstly, I want to talk about NAVI, because I just don't know where to go with this lineup anymore. This feels like they had more than a fair chance of making it into this playoffs, but at every turn, NAVI continued to stumble in truly odd ways. They opened up with a strong 2-1 victory over MIBR. MIBR are by no means a slouch team and love to take early group stage victories all the time. So when NAVI dropped the first map Anubis 13-9, I think we were in for a bit of a ride. But credit to Imma and Bit especially, who really carried on Mirage and Inferno to power NAVI into the reverse sweep, winning 13-5 on Mirage and then 13-9 on Inferno. But already the worrying signs for NAVI are there, especially JL, who fails to get above a 1.0 rating for the series and end up as the worst rated player next to Alexi B. Their next series in the upper bracket semis was an advancement game against the new look Falcons with Munacy, and early on NAVI looked to be in a strong position, winning Inferno 13-9. And on Mirage, they had a dominant T-side to start the second map, going up 9-3 before conceding a 10-2 reverse sweep to the Munacy Falcons in just dramatic fashion, leaving a JL pop-off performance ultimately in the dust, which is just tough because JL as an individual has been struggling so much lately. You have to capitalize on these rare games where he shows his previous potential. And then you go to a final map on Dust 2, that's just the Falcons' playground. Nico and Mouz are going to eat on Dust 2 every single time, and they picked them apart, beating NAVI 13-4. This is a single elimination format, so now NAVI are on the back foot for the rest of the tournament. In their first elimination game, they came up against FlyQuest, which should have been just an easy matchup, and it looked like it would be that way after a 13-7 win on Inferno to open the series. But FlyQuest beat NAVI straight up on Mirage 13-9. JL had an awful game going 7-19, and just dropping him out to FlyQuest at all is really tough to swallow, even for NAVI. Thankfully, NAVI bounced back and cleaned things up very quickly on Ancient 13-8, but it's just like, come on, you're NAVI, you should not be losing a map to FlyQuest. And that brings us to the lower bracket finals against Team Liquid, more on them in just a little bit, where Team Liquid pretty soundly beat NAVI in 3 games. Liquid dominated Anubis 13-6, no surprise there. NAVI continued to look pretty strong on Inferno, beating Liquid back 13-10, and then on Ancient, NAVI simply ran out of firepower, getting dusted by Liquid 13-8. And yeah, I don't know what to do with this NAVI lineup. They get eliminated from another tournament, and outside of Wonderful being occasionally good up until the playoffs, Imma generally being solid, this team just lacks firepower. All of their players hover around a 1.045 rating for this tournament, which is good for like the 5th or 6th best team, but they don't have an individual superstar. It continues to be the worst part for NAVI. Okay, let's talk about Faze. Faze also got eliminated in tragic fashion in the other group of this tournament, and I don't know what to say. I've ran out of emotions describing Faze Clan. I feel only nothingness when I watch this team. It is an abyss known as Brokey, and nothing else but a receptacle for all of my anxieties and fear. First game up, they played Pain without Big Uzera. By the way, hope Big Uzera is feeling better. He had a bit of a health issue here with his ears. Hopefully we get to see him in full force for the major. But Pain with a stand-in, no IGL. Faze beat them in 2 maps, but both maps went all 24 rounds. A little bit concerning. And credit to Brokey, he was good in both games. That's a win in my book. Playoff advancement game next against the Mongolz, and we're back to things being painful. Mongolz blew Faze out 13-8 on Dust 2. Nothing more to say there. Everyone played bad on that game. And then we get into Ancient. Close game. Goes to overtime. Mongolz take that victory 16-13. How did Faze do in terms of scores? Here's the scores, by the way. You might notice a problem here. This game went into overtime and Brokey failed to get 10 kills in an overtime game. Now, by no means am I going to sit here and tell you that everything is exactly Brokey's problem. That's not how this works. Counter-Strike is more complicated than that. There's a lot more going on with Faze than just Brokey. But this man is the most inconsistent fucking player I have ever had to deal with. And of course, because the Brokey giveth and the Brokey taketh away, in their first elimination game against 3D Max, they stomped them out, hold 3D Max to 8 total rounds across 2 maps, including a 13-1 victory. And there's Brokey with 27 kills and 15 deaths for the series with 1.34 rating, looking like himself, because life is pain. And only getting more painful when you realize that Faze had to play 2 games yesterday to be able to stay alive and get to the playoffs. They had to play the winner of GamerLegion versus Complexity. GamerLegion beat Complexity, more on that in a little bit. And then GamerLegion beat Faze in 2 very close games. It went double overtime on Mirage before GamerLegion rose on top, going 19-16. And then on Nuke, Faze were up 11-5 or 11-6, something like that. And then GamerLegion managed to pull off the reverse sweep and win the map and the series 13-11. Oh, by the way, Faze were on the CT side when they were up 11-5. I don't know, man. Faze are cursed. I think that's the only answer. There is an eldritch god determined to make this team not good. And I need to move on. My brain can't handle it. A final note before we get into the teams who did qualify. Complexity also notably did not make it out. They got eliminated in the lower bracket by GamerLegion, as we just said. And you know what? Listen, Complexity are still winning the major. I'm still on the copium pill. I think they will be Aus's dark horse. This was fine. They had to do something ridiculous like travel 47 hours to play their first series. So I'm just going to chalk this one up to jet lag. No big deal, boys. GG, go next. Complexity winning the major. Okay, so let's get into the teams who did qualify. Starting off, we have both teams who made it out of the upper bracket finals of both groups, advanced straight to the semifinals. This should surprise nobody, which is why we're kind of breezing past it. It's Mouz and Vitality, the 2 best teams in the world. Now for Mouz, yeah, listen, they dropped their first map of the tournament after traveling to Australia to Big. That's okay, that can happen. They then proceeded to send Big to the Shadow Realm on the rest of the series in the other 2 maps, and then their other 2 series against GamerLegion and Mongolz, they didn't drop another map. So yeah, it's Mouz. They dominate the group stages. I'm not surprised anymore. This team runs like a well-oiled machine. I continue to be surprised by Brolin's ability to adapt in real time as an in-game leader, and yeah, they're the 2nd best team in the world. The only team they tend to lose to is Vitality. And then for Vitality, what else needs to be said? They played fucking FlyQuest in the opening round, eviscerated them. They dominated this new look Liquid again, and then the only time they gave up double-digit rounds was in the first map against Falcons on Mirage, which they still won in overtime, and then trounced them on the 2nd map. It's Vitality. It's their era. They just passed Astralis' legendary 17-0 series streak. I think they're at 19 straight series wins. Next up is Team Liquid with 23. The question is, are they going to pass Team Liquid and go into solo 2nd place because nobody's catching NIP? I don't know, dude. It's Vitality. They are the evil empire. I think Falcons are an interesting ripple where Munisi and Nico are definitely good enough to beat Vitality, but the question is, will they be able to get Vitality on a weak enough day for that to happen? I don't know. I don't think anyone's beating Vitality. It just seems inevitable. Anyway, with the 2 probable finalists out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the other 4 teams who made it out, starting first with Falcons. And obviously, this is New Look Falcons, Munisi and Dexter out, Nico and Mongolz back together, and it's like they never even left. Obviously, these two are one of the most synergistic, well-playing duos we've ever seen in the history of Counter-Strike. You put those two on a team with good enough supporting pieces, Zonic and Kixan are more than qualified as callers. Yeah, they're gonna be good. And listen, they had a relatively easy bracket. They dust off Saw 2-0 in their opening game. They had a very good win against NAVI in the upper semis, going 2-1 there. NAVI, of course, as we talked about, have a lot of issues in their own right, but Falcons are a new lineup. NAVI still have a very solid tactical base. I do think NAVI can win this matchup more often than not, especially in these circumstances. But Falcons, they still played incredibly well. Mongolz has not missed a beat. Nico looks fantastic. They looked like they trounced NAVI in terms of firepower routinely. And, you know, in the upper final, to make it to the semifinals or the quarters, they got blitzed by Vitality. You know, name a team in the world that that's not happening to. I will say, like I covered earlier, I do think Falcons are uniquely matched up to give a team like Vitality trouble, because Nico and Mongolz can power you through any fucking game if those two play to their level. All it takes is for ZywOo or Ross to have a slow game, and suddenly Falcons are in the mix. Out of all the teams in the world, I will give Falcons a very high odds of taking maps off Vitality in big series, especially in like a best of 5 situation. I just don't think that's unreasonable when you have the number 3 and probably the number 5 player in the world right now. That is just, you have to give deference to that level of firepower. So going into the playoffs, it's going to be whether TeSeS and Magisk can tread water. And I think TeSeS can do it more often than not. It's Magisk that I think everybody is rightly concerned about, because he's just kind of a holdover on this team, if we're being honest. If Zonic wasn't the coach, he probably would not have survived the roster moves at the beginning of the year. I think that's just a fair thing to say. Overall, can't be mad about making the playoffs in your first foray with a new lineup. And considering this bracket has you playing Mouz potentially in the semis if you beat GamerLegion, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to see Falcons make 2 back-to-back grand finals here at Melbourne. Next up, their opponents in the quarterfinals, as we've already talked about, is going to be GamerLegion. GamerLegion are in a weird spot. Obviously, they just missed out on making the major in pretty tragic fashion in the EU MRQ. Check my EU MRQ video if you aren't up to date on what's going on over there. So considering that and having to travel to Australia on relatively short notice thereafter, I think many people, myself included, were expecting GamerLegion to be pretty rattled and not really fully invested in a tournament like this. But this team always bounce backs better on land. They have Ash behind them once again, which they didn't at the MRQs. And it's just kind of GamerLegion as per usual. They're a very solid team. They love to take maps off of much better opponents. They look really solid. Just can they put things together to make a playoff win is really the next question for them. They started off with a very solid win over 3D Max, 13-4 on Ancient, 13-8 on Inferno. Rez, good. PR, good. GamerLegion, good. It leads into kind of poor luck of the draws. They have Mouz in the next game in the upper bracket advancement. And you know, Mouz are just a bit of a tall hill for GamerLegion to summit. They did a very good job, especially on the second map of Duke, of pushing things to overtime, and it looked like we might have even seen Train if things had gone a little bit worse for Mouz. But they didn't, and GamerLegion were held to just 1 round in said overtime, so you get O2'd, no big deal, time to drop down to the lower brackets and get to work. In their first matchup down there, facing elimination, they take her Complexity 2-1. This one hurts a little bit because I was really betting on Complexity to make a deep run here, but it is what it is. I mean, Complexity have been living and dying by their dominance of Train, and in that first game, GamerLegion just dropped dick and beat them straight up 13-9. Rez balling out of control with nearly a 30 bomb, going 27-13 with a 1.73 rating. Meanwhile, Halzerk and Nyx were fighting for their lives and anything they could get by. Alright, no big deal. Complexity answered back with their own very strong win on Ancient 13-5, putting us into a nuke decider that had a lot of promise to be very, very intense. Unfortunately, GamerLegion ran them over. 13-4, PR with 21 kills, 7 deaths, Rez with 17 kills, 7 deaths. There was just nothing working for Complexity. Sixy and Nyx both combined for 8 total kills. Halzerk, who had been playing like an unreal top 5 level opper up until this series, just maintains his struggles, going 7-14. This was a firepower difference, plain and simple. Complexity petered out at the worst time, and GamerLegion stay alive to ruin my dreams by beating Faze. And not to relitigate all of my pain with Faze from earlier in the video, you can just rewind that section if you're really curious. I hate everything, because it's not even like Faze played bad. They just couldn't win a double overtime on Mirage, and they couldn't push it to overtime on Nuke. They absolutely threw that second half on Nuke, up 11-5 before GamerLegion pulled off the comeback. GamerLegion, they played better, they had better grit, their stars were better, they deserve to beat Faze Clan, and I'm in pain over it. Let's move on. All right, coming down to our last two teams, let's talk about the Mongolz, because I don't really have many thoughts on this. This is the Mongolz. They beat Complexity 2-1. They beat Faze 2-0 because life is pain. They then got bounced by Mouz in the determination for semifinals or quarters. They were already in the playoffs. No big deal to lose there, in my opinion. It's the Mongolz. It's yet another group stage. They made it out. Whippy. Good job. Yippee. Win a playoff game, please. Good lord. Please, finally. And speaking of finally, we have our last team to qualify, and it's Team Liquid. Yes, it turns out when you have more than 3 days of prep with your brand new in-game leader, it's kind of a better turnaround. Team Liquid had a pretty good run here. They opened up by beating VergilsPro 2-1. Pretty tidy. VergilsPro are kind of on a downtrend lately, but regardless, it wasn't a free series. Liquid won pretty strongly on Dust 2 13-8. They got shellacked on Mirage 13-8, including losing the first 7 or 8 rounds straight on their T side, which is not ideal. But hey, don't worry, they cleaned it up on Ancient with a 13-10 victory. I gotta say, Twist has pretty much bounced right back into the star role in a big way. It looks like that change was not that big a deal for him. NAVI is still fantastic. So that pairing of NAVI and Twist is a really, really strong rifling duo. One of the best in the world, quite honestly. So it's not gonna take that much behind them to really deliver. Unfortunately, this does mean that Ultimate's gonna have to shoulder a lot more weight here, because when he goes missing, it's just gonna be that more apparent because the firepower elsewhere is so strong. Add on to that, Shuhi, not a bad fragger in his own right. Naf is just kind of holding it down. He has his own issues, more on that in just a second. Overall, the new picture for Team Liquid, I think, looks much brighter. Their T-sides look much more decisive, more coordinated. And again, just getting Twist back in the driver's seat is so clearly the most correct decision that any stumbling now is so well worth it. And stumbled they did. They got bopped by Vitality in the next series. That's just no big deal. You're not ready to be Vitality yet. I'm not going to hold that against you guys. In the lower bracket, they smoked MIBR in 2 games, 13-6 on Anubis, 13-10 on Ancient. I just love that NAVI has had this sea change into a truly aggressive rifler. He was so passive on Heroic last year, but he is doing all of these entry roles for Liquid to just an astounding level. Like on this T side here, when they needed him most, he popped off with a 15 kill half, a 2.0 rating. Meanwhile, Twist only had 2 kills, Ultimate had 4. So with your 2 other best players in the background, it's NAVI in an elimination game really powering Liquid through to keep them alive in this tournament. That's what you want to see from your big blockbuster signing during the offseason. And that set Liquid up with a date against NAVI, a team that has vexed them many times in the past. But this time, Liquid came out on top strongly. They beat NAVI in 3 games. They smoked them on Anubis 13-6. Liquid are still one of the strongest Anubis teams in the world. That should surprise nobody. On Inferno, a lot of clutches really went NAVI's way, leading to a 13-10 victory. Bit had one early on. JL had an amazing 1v4 early in the first half as well. NAVI, despite their issues, when you can get JL, Wonderful, and Bit popping off in the same game, they're gonna be a scarier team than you would think. Nav had a terrible game on Inferno, going 6-15. He's had a lot more of these bad games lately, these last couple months, and it's starting to concern me. He still plays very much to the average NAF level that you would expect, but these games where he goes completely missing are new to his game, and I really hope it's not a trend that will continue for very long. And that brings us to Ancient, and this is where Shuhi really proves his worth. In a must-win final map of an elimination game, your in-game leader leading the charge with 20 kills, 12 deaths, a 1.38 rating, that's what you want to see if you are every other member of Liquid. It shows that Shuhi is here, he's here to elevate you guys to a winning position, and he will be the guy to do it if he has to. He's always been an underrated rifling IGL for my money, and Shuhi just backpacking some of these early game rounds was awesome to see. Now, to his credit, the rest of Liquid also did very good. No one was lagging behind, even Twist still had timely impact, but it's just nice to see Shuhi really just take the reins and get them into the playoffs. Now, let's set some reasonable expectations. They're on Vitality's side of the bracket. Will Liquid make a grand finals run? Almost certainly not. But can they beat Mongolz? You know, notorious playoff frauds, the Mongolz? Hell yes they can. And this is a great step forward for this Shuhi tenureship. And hopefully Liquid makes the right choice and they sign him after the major, because he's just not a piece you give up voluntarily. Alright, real quick before we get out of here, let's just do a quarterfinal predictions. GamerLegion versus Falcons. I'm going to take the Falcons to win that in 3 games. I think GamerLegion are more than good enough to get a map out the Falcons if they're a little slow starting. But Falcons, They have the better stars. I'm going to take Nico and Muncie every day of the week. I think Falcons will win, but like I said, 3 games. For Mongolz and Liquid, this one, I'm going to be confident. I have no faith in the Mongolz right now. I'm going to take Team Liquid to beat the Mongolz in 2 games. Not only are the Mongolz obvious playoff frauds, we all know this, they also love to play Anubis, so I think Liquid can get a first or second map Anubis pick in there, and that's going to be a nearly guaranteed win for them, in my opinion. So I think Liquid are in great odds to make the semifinals, where they will get blown into outer space by Vitality, but that's a problem for tomorrow. And if you don't want any problems from me, you better like, you better comment, and most of all, you better subscribe. I want 10K subscribers now. Not the end of this year, not tomorrow, not after CSI, now. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Skin Club. If you check the top link in the description, you get 7% deposit bonus the next time you fill up. Please gamble safely and responsibly. Thank you to our glorious channel members, Justin, JesseTiv, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Mander, Vegt, I'm Flashbang, Stormy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, and Sid Pro 12. To become one of the channel members, you can just link in the description down below. For $5 a month, you can support directly streaming in the videos just like this, as well as custom on our community Discord. All my Twitter, see you soon. I'm streaming Oblivion Remastered. Bye!